Thanks so much for having me. And hey, everyone, thanks so much for joining us today. My name is JQ. I guess my government name is Jonathan. I go by my initials. Wanted to rebrand in high school. There's too many Johns and Jacks. So JQ was the way to go, and it rhymes with GQ. So it worked out perfectly. So I am now a second year MBA. I graduate next May. My former career was in the government, so I worked for the Department of Defense. And this past summer, I was in defense tech. So I worked at a defense tech startup. And what I really wanted to get out of my MBA experience was to really be able to pivot away from the government side and better understand how that private sector worked out. And I feel that I have had a lot of great tools and a lot of opportunities, both interacting with classmates and then professors, and then doing certain conferences and the like. And that's been really useful for me to develop on my own and then also to build that network with other individuals. I think, yeah, and then I guess on the side, what I'm also a part of, I am the current co-president of the Asian American Alliance. We have a very robust community of other affinity groups. We also have different clubs that focus on industry. So on top of the Asian American Alliance, I'm also part of the Global Security Tech Club. And then there's also additional other clubs. So like a big focus of other individuals could be like tech and then also PM individuals. I guess that's kind of my intro. And if the panelists are ready, Terrell, do you want me to start with their introductions? Give
Yeah,
them a chance to speak.
yeah, for sure. Go ahead.
Awesome. Why don't we start with Katie? Katie and I actually overlapped a year. So Katie, why don't you give us your intro, your name, your program, your year, and what you're doing before and after Sloan?
Now, can you hear me? Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Dow. I just graduated in this past spring. I was part of the regular full-time MBA program, so 2 years. Before Sloan, I worked in life sciences consulting, and I'm now in a rotational program at a biotech. Is that everything I was supposed to say?
Thanks, Katie. How about we go to MK or Manit?
Hi, everyone. My name is Maneet. I did the Sloan Fellows MBA program, which is 1 year accelerated program. Before Sloan, I was in industry in aerospace on the manufacturing side. And post Sloan, I have been in consulting, still attached to aerospace industry, but now more focused on PE sector. Glad to be here.
Thanks so much, Manit. Greg?
Hi, everyone. I'm Greg Kim. I was an MBA from the graduating class of 2018, which means I applied 10 years ago, as someone pointed out to me, unfortunately, a couple of weeks ago. Before school, I was in IT consulting, focused mainly in the healthcare and education space. And after school, I bounced around a few places in like sort of the esports and sports industry, including Riot Games, Madison Square Garden, and now Oakview Group.
Thanks, Greg. And then Elizabeth, I don't know if you were granted the panelists function. I think so, right?
I just joined. Okay, cool. Hi, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Howe. I graduated in 2022. I was part of the LGO program. I started before joining Sloan. I was a software engineer at Wayfair for a couple of years. And then after that, after school, I moved into Johnson & Johnson, working in the data strategy, data engineering, the general data space. So I'm with their contact lens business based outside of Jacksonville, Florida. And I've been doing data engineering, data strategy, some cloud computing, and we're getting into a little bit of Gen AI stuff now as well.
Thanks, Elizabeth. And thank you all for your intros. As you guys can see, it's a fairly diverse group of individuals we have for our panel. And again, this is focused on, with the club that we were all a part of. And it's cool to see that you can interact with people from different programs. So the LGOs, SFMBAs, and there are certain classes and certificates that you can take where you can learn from those experiences. So with that, just kind of want to start with the first question. We'll go with Greg, and then we can go with Elizabeth, and then I'll go. Actually, let's just go the other order. So that's easier. Elizabeth, you can start first. The question is, why do you choose Sloan?
Sure. I've always known that I wanted to do an MBA at some point in my life even as a software engineer. I felt like maybe that wasn't what I wanted to do forever. I didn't want to code forever. And to get into more of the business space. I just felt like my undergrad was too technical and I needed some more business education. With that being said, I still really enjoyed the technical aspect, so I started looking around to see if they had dual degree programs out there offered by the top MBA schools. So MIT came up actually as one of my top options. I visited the campus. I was already living in Cambridge, so that helped. But having met Sloanies, I also visited other schools to see the culture and do some tours, join some online and in-person admission events, and just felt like the people that I met with Sloan, like I could see myself here, and it had a good blend of the kind of technical, a little bit nerdy background with like a very down to earth and nice culture, which I didn't always feel at other schools. So I felt like my personality, my background, and my interests mixed really well with what Sloan is for as well.
Greg? Thanks, Elizabeth.
Yeah, for me, well, I'll start with YMBA, then I'll quickly switch to Y Sloan. So YMBA, I think, getting my professional career started in consulting, like I mentioned, I was in the healthcare and education space. Really great learning experience, developed a really great toolkit, was kind of bored out of my mind. So I wanted to do something with my career that was more exciting or I was more passionate about. So that was YMBA. And then Y Sloan, I think two reasons. One, at my firm, there happened to be a few Sloan alumni who I really looked up to. One of my direct managers was a Sloanie. So there was sort of like I knew alums in this space. I knew alums from the school that I looked up to. And the second one, which is kind of a cheap answer, is like Sloan is unique in that we have the Sloan Sports Analytics Conference. And that was something I knew I wanted to be a part of sort of since college when I read about it in the New York Times. So coming to Sloan for an MBA was sort of full circle to all of those things.
Yeah, conferences were also what got me involved with like Sloan, hearing about it. There's the National Security Conference that I was able to attend even before I joined Sloan officially. So yeah, it's a great point. MK or Manit?
Sure. So for me, similar to Elizabeth, I have a technical background. I'm a material science engineer. So MIT I see it as a mecca of engineers for engineers. So it was a natural attraction affinity to the school. And by the time I was looking into MBA programs, I was a decent amount into my career. So I wanted to look at programs that are more towards executive MBA, and Sloan Fellows is a unique program because it is an executive MBA, but it's a full year, full time, 1 year full time. So you are actually stepping away from your career, taking a break and kind of resetting. So I like that aspect of it. And then thirdly, I was also already in Boston, and I had visited other campuses, but it was either like they're too big or in a too small of a town. So Boston already felt like home, and it was just a comfortable transition.
Yeah, thanks, Manit. Yeah, I can definitely speak to just like the different amounts of skill sets that I mentioned earlier. I mean, even the greater undergraduate community too, in general, graduates, PhD students, I've taken some classes with those individuals and just learned a lot, and everyone's trying to build something together, have that passion, which is awesome. Katie?
Yeah, I think I echo a lot of what everyone else said, so I won't repeat it too much. But one thing I will say is I think a few of us have technical backgrounds. I also had a technical undergrad degree. And so I did want to get an MBA to get a business degree, but you definitely don't have to have a technical background to come to MIT. Some of my friends were journalists, like English majors, things like that. So don't let that intimidate you, just because quite a few of us have technical backgrounds. But yeah, I wanted to learn more about business. I wanted to pivot out of consulting. So was looking at business schools. And yeah, again, echo a lot of what other folks said, but I really loved kind of the innovative culture of MIT and of Sloan. You know, there's so many people working on like really interesting things, trying to solve really interesting problems. So that was a big plus for me. Additionally, being interested in healthcare and life sciences, the Cambridge area is obviously extremely strong. There's tons of small biotechs, obviously lots of research going on at MIT. So it felt like a good fit for me industry-wise. And then last thing I'll say is that I really liked the class size of Sloan. So Sloan is a little bit of a smaller class size than a lot of other similar schools. And I really appreciated that because, you know, roughly 400 people, and this is for the regular MBA program, but roughly 400 people, you can kind of get to know most of them. Maybe not, you're not best friends with every single one of them, but it felt like a very manageable class size. And I really liked that.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. Yeah, definitely really appreciate that right now, especially as I've made like more of my friends in the second year. I can really get to really hear their thoughts outside of some of the, what I was used to in undergrad. All right, so for the next question, I'll start with Greg, and then we'll go with Elizabeth, and then Manita, and then Katie, and it'll be focused on the community at Sloan. So just describe it for us, what your experiences were, pros, no cons, no cons.
No
Greg.
cons. I think everyone's gonna say this, but I think it was super collaborative. I'll be honest, like I came into an MBA program expecting sort of what you may, from what I hear, get at some other schools, like a type A, super competitive environment, just there to network. But like, I think one of the biggest things that quickly surprised me about Sloan was just how collaborative everyone was, and that like, you know, I made friends for life at school. I wasn't necessarily expecting to, but just hitting the ground running our first core semester, getting to know everyone in my core team and my section, like I made fast friends very quickly, and they've stayed my friends since school. And like, sure, the networking element's really helpful, but I sort of really appreciated how all my classmates and I, one, banded together to get through some of the coursework, but two, just like, you know, just being in Boston together for those 2 years. I definitely would not trade that for anything. So yeah, I think really supportive and collaborative. That's how I describe it.
Thanks, Greg.
Am I
Was
next?
yeah, I don't remember.
Sorry, Elizabeth.
Okay.
Okay. Definitely echo what Greg said. Very collaborative. Ex Culture at Sloan. First core semester, a lot of the work you do is with your core team. And so a lot of the projects are team projects, if not most of them. And my experience is a little bit different first few semesters, just because I actually said yes to Sloan the week before the country shut down in 2020. So the first semester was a little bit different, but MIT definitely tried to still give us the in-person experience, which we did get. We just couldn't, like all 400 of us couldn't have been on campus at the same time. But even though maybe a lot of the traditional more get to know you in person networking experiences weren't available to us right away, I think we were all very creative in coming up with different ways to get to know each other. So smaller dinners, people had like online cookbook clubs where people who liked to cook would join Zoom at the same time, and each week somebody would pick a dish they wanted to teach everybody how to do and send the ingredients beforehand. So I think class-wise, it's very collaborative. People are very friendly. It's very innovative, and I think that also goes to show, even in like the COVID pandemic, how we were able to work with the situation that we were handed with and still come out lifelong friends and get the work done. And yeah, I think it was pretty much everything that I expected and more. So yeah, there are honestly no cons from my end. I was very happy with the decision with going to Sloan.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, Manit.
I would say, again, this is incremental. I was very pleasantly surprised by everyone's humility. I think coming in, of course, everybody is very well accomplished, and that's the first thing generally we project, especially in this kind of environment with a very prestigious school, very competitive admissions process. But it was really great once you start working together and you get past all of that. It was just really pleasant to find out that people are so smart and they're experts in whatever area they work in or they're coming from, but they're still very humble and they're very very helpful, collaborative. If you have any questions, they will go out of their way to help each other out. So that's what I would say about the community.
Absolutely. Katie?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with everything that's been said. Definitely a culture of Sloanies helping Sloanies. I also think just a really passionate community. Everyone is like really excited about the things they're working on or the clubs that they're helping lead. And I just found it to be like a really invigorating community where I could just learn so much from other people. And everyone is always willing to, take the time to help you and give you feedback on, whatever you might be working on and things like that. So yeah, really, really great, strong community.
Thanks, Katie, and thanks everyone. Yeah, love it, and I'm still appreciating it right now. I mean, today is a big club fest day, so that's where all of the new students get to interact with all the different clubs they can be a part of. So there's that club culture. There's also just that general sense, as Katie was talking about, like Sloanies helping Sloanies. And we'll go into a question later on about the alumni community, but I'm sure there's some anecdotes that people have to share about that. But for our next question, we're gonna start with Manit on just how were you involved in the community at Sloan?
So I'd say for SF MBA program, it's a little bit tricky because we're there for a very short amount of time. But I think we still made the most of it. In terms of community, of course, you have clubs, conferences, people have already mentioned that. But a big part of your community is gonna be your classmates, your cohort, your core teams, and things that you plan with them. So outside of the structured environment, I'd say like you find there are hackathons that you can find people of your same interest, connect with them through hackathons, through clubs. You also, as you learn more about each other, you connect on things. So we did a lot of hiking trips around. There are also treks that you can do. And if you're doing any certificates, you get to participate in those treks. And then one thing that's very memorable for me is that there are these C functions that get hosted through clubs. And our cohort, we did our own version of C function where we had the whole cohort do different cultural themes. So we had like a what is it, like an Indian, Southeast Asian night. We had a Japanese night. So we did all these different cultural events, and it was just really great to immerse in other people's culture and learn more about their traditions.
Thanks, Manit. I'm with Katie, so she doesn't have to regurgitate everyone's statements.
Thank you, JQ. Yes, on campus, there's lots to join on campus. So for me, I was one of the co-presidents of the Yarn, which is Sloan's kind of storytelling organization, but it's this really awesome event. Basically happens almost every month where 4 Sloanies will get up and they'll kind of talk about their life story for 20 minutes in front of roughly 200 people, 300 people, whoever wants to show up that night. But it's this really awesome experience to connect with your fellow Sloanies and kind of like get to know them a bit better and help just understand the different walks of life that people come from. So I was co-president of that, so that took up a lot of my time. But I was also involved in helping run the healthcare conference, which was fun, but a lot of work. As folks mentioned, conferences are a really big thing, and they are a tough but rewarding experience. It's really it's a really cool experience and a big accomplishment to say that you helped put one of those on and like bring together really interesting speakers and come up with interesting panels and just put a whole operation on. And then I was also part of the Asian American Alliance board with JQ, which was also a really, really wonderful experience, a really great way to connect with fellow Asian and Asian American Sloanies. And we put on several different events, some of them being like the C functions, like Manit mentioned. And then I think one of the highlights also of kind of my like club involvement was I kind of held like a panel for different Asian and Asian American Sloanies to talk about their experiences and just kind of share with the broader Sloan population of, what are things that that Asians and Asian Americans go through just in the world and in the day to day. So that was a really cool experience to kind of think about the questions that we wanted to ask and the different elements of the Asian American experience that we wanted to showcase to kind of the broader Sloan population. Yeah, that was a little bit of what I was involved in.
Can attest to Katie's involvement, and then she also was the chief merch officer, and she helped us create this sweater, which all the students are hounding over right now. So good job, Katie. All right, Elizabeth, how were you involved in the community?
Sure. So being in the LGO program, there are certain committees within the program that are all run by students on top of the Sloan clubs that kind of circle around the requirements we also have in our program. So I was one of the co-chairs of the internship committee, which helps filter through all of so in the LGO program, it's a 24-month full-time 2-year program where one of your semesters, so a full 6 months, you're actually off with a company doing a 6-month internship. And so all of these companies that propose projects need to come through MIT, and the students groom through them to see, depending on which engineering major you are and what project it is, what majors can do it. Anyways, I was on that internship committee. I also, my first year, I worked on the sports analytics conference, which was like folks mentioned, a lot of work, but very rewarding. It was the first time it was online again. So different challenges that we had to work through than previous years, but it was fun either way and got to meet a lot of people and make connections that I otherwise probably wouldn't have. I went on a lot of treks, as many as I could, because I really like traveling, and a lot of these treks are planned by students from these different countries. And so going on these treks gave me a way of experiencing a country that people from that country want like to put together for you and like do the local things, but also some of the traditional like touristy things. It was a good blend of that, but also I think what was really cool is on the Israel trek, there was a lot of like learning that I wouldn't have gotten. They had speakers, they had like people from the local community come talk to us, and we even had like a panel. So I think it was a good blend of learning and fun with a lot of good friends and meeting new friends. What else did I do? I think I went to a lot of C functions. That's also a lot of fun and a good way to experience different cultures, different clubs. But yeah, I think that was most of what I did. Yep.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Yeah, the C functions were the culture functions. So it's where the affinity clubs, all the affinity clubs host kind of a event where they kind of showcase their culture, be it through food, be it through dance. And yeah, those are so much fun. I think our first one is next week with the Hispanic Business Club. And yeah, for the sports analytics conference, fingers crossed for Caitlin Clark and Tom Brady. I mean, you never know. I'm just putting that out there. I just hope. Who knows? Greg?
Yeah, that's a good segue. So I was my crowning achievement at Sloan was working on the sports conference. I was co-lead my second year. And that was the year we were lucky enough to bring in President Barack Obama. So not quite Caitlin Clark, but maybe close. So that consumed my life pretty much all of second year, happily so. The first year I was also involved. I just kind of did like the esports panel and like we did a Super Smash Brothers tournament, which was kind of funny. So that was like my main extracurricular. And I think, you know, some people do a broad range of stuff. Some people really focus in on like the one they really care about. I would say the latter path is sort of what I did when I was at school. Otherwise, community-wise, I think like I kind of alluded to it. I had a really great experience my first year with my ocean and my core team. Not everyone does, but we were a pretty tight-knit group. I don't know if they do it anymore, but there used to be like a Sloan Olympics thing, which is basically like a small field day. We won that our first fall. We were obnoxious and came back as a team in the spring, which most people don't do. And we also did it our second year as like a second year Baltic Ocean team, which was really obnoxious. But it was a lot of fun for all of us. So yeah, pretty much like the conference and just hanging out with my close friends. You know, I think Boston's a great town when you have a community around you, and Sloan gives you that. So just, you know, being able to hang out all over Cambridge or people's houses, you're just like grabbing dinner together, just like playing board games at someone's house. Those are some of the like my best memories at Sloan. So I would say like those are the kind of the two things, two ways I most engage with the community.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, listen to all your reflections makes me really privileged to still be at school and really think
Goes
about
by
like,
fast. Goes by
yeah,
really
yeah.
fast.
That office quote where it's like, I wish I knew I was in the good times when I'm in them. So good reminder. Thanks, guys. We're gonna do one more question. We'll pass over the Q&A, Terrell, I think, if that makes sense, with the last 20 minutes or so. But this final question is, how have you engaged with the alumni network, either as a student and since graduating? So we'll go with, let's see. We'll give Katie another shot. Katie, all you.
My answer will probably be the shortest because I've only been out of school for like 3 months. So I am a fresh alum. But yeah, I mean, I live in New York now. There's super strong alum representation in New York. And I think I'm hanging out with Sloan people at least once or twice a week. So that's kind of, I can't really speak to too much further than that because I haven't like had to network for a new job or anything yet. But no, I think, I mean, actually, I'll take a step back. When I was recruiting and looking for my internships and my jobs, I will say that the alum network was very responsive. Like pretty much anyone I would reach out to on LinkedIn would respond to me and respond to me pretty quickly, and just want to be as helpful as possible. So yeah, I think the alum network is quite strong, but I'm a fresh alum, so I'll hand it over to the others.
Thanks, Katie. Oops. Let's see. Elizabeth, why don't you go next?
Sure. Agree with what Katie said. The alum network is definitely strong. Being in Jacksonville, Florida, there isn't a huge Sloan presence here, but I've stayed connected with actually some of the alums that I connected with while I was still in school, either through like while I was doing my 6-month LGO internship. I did a ton of networking then because outside of work there wasn't like homework to do. So I stayed in touch with them, and the LGO program puts together a alumni conference every year. So right out of school, I went to the conference for that year. I haven't been back since because work got busy, but I think those are just examples of how the alums continue to stay connected. And with my friends, I still meet up with them whenever I go to Boston. A lot of them stay in Boston, so that's sort of like peer-to-peer connections with alums, but kind of more upward wise. Agree with what Katie said. People are always super responsive. I've been to panels or meetings with alums where they literally said, I will hire you just because you graduated from here and we went through the same experiences, which is something I've never heard before. And I've heard it from multiple people. So I think the fact that we all went through the same experiences and the alums know what education we got through the program gives them enough belief in our abilities to be able to take up jobs that we're interested in their space and develop into it, even if we didn't necessarily have the skills at the very beginning. Yeah, I think overall the alumni community has been very strong. I think and then I guess through me as an alum now, I've had people reach out to me on LinkedIn as well, interested in exploring applying to MIT, and also like, why would you apply to a dual degree program? Kind of wanting to know more about the experiences and walking through their story to see if the program is a good fit. Do they want to go the full-time MBA, or do they want something like the LGO program where you get a degree in engineering and a degree in your MBA all in 2 years? It is more schoolwork for sure, but if it's something that you're interested in, it is worth the work.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Greg, how about you?
Yeah, I would say like the network's both like there when you need it, but it's also there when you don't, right? Like I think helping Sloanies is a very real thing. I think anytime I've been considering new opportunities, or my peers have, like it's really easy to just link up with any other alum like through LinkedIn, or just through your own personal network, and someone's always willing to lend a helping hand. I would say the most frequent way it manifests itself is just like with my peer group, right? And just like having the group chat, right? Like the other day, like one of my analysts was bothering me. So it's just like I just like hopped on WhatsApp. It's like, hey guys, like how do you guys handle this kind of thing, right? Or how do you deal with these situations? Or when it's time to have conversations, like how are you navigating these things? I think just having that group of people who share that set of experiences. It also so happens that a bunch of people in my group chat are Asian Americans. Like I think that helps too. But just like being able to like have those shared experiences and background, know someone's coming from a similar place, even if they're in a different industry or something. Like I think that's been a huge plus, and it's just kind of like a great day-to-day relief. And also like now, I work for like a sponsorship agency, part of our company. So like when we're doing business sales, like I actually like have a network of people who are like mid-level senior at a bunch of companies now that like I can try to get in touch with to help our salespeople try to actually sell some sports sponsorship. So it's had a little bit more practical value in the last couple of years too, which I didn't necessarily expect. So both formally and informally, I think it's a really tight-knit community.
Awesome. Thanks, Greg. Manit?
Yeah, resonated with each point everybody made. It's great. I mean, I've been keeping in touch or tapping into the alumni network for any, if you want to get any perspective on industry or want to understand something and gather some insights on a particular industry. It has been great. It has been great for warm intros. So I've reached out to people whom I know, and then they have offered to connect me to 3 or 4 other people, and warm introductions are always more responsive than cold. Other than that, I would say they're another great asset to have when you're traveling. So I'm still in like these big WhatsApp groups, and if somebody is gonna be in a city, they just post it like, "Hey, gonna be in London these days. Is anybody around?" And people are usually very responsive. And even though you may have not gone to the same program or not overlapped at all, but just because you're associated with the school, people will show up to meet you like complete strangers, but you still have something common.
Thanks, Manit. Thanks, guys. So we're gonna go into some Q&A from the attendees. Terrell, do you want me to take this, or do you want to? I'm happy to.
Take it away, JQ.
Awesome. So we're gonna start with Elizabeth. Someone had a question specific for the LGO, but while she's answering that question, I want you guys all, for the next question, just like your best memory or like the most rewarding experience of Sloan for you. So for Elizabeth, we're gonna start with LGO specifically. How did the LGO experience compare with your MBA counterparts? Specifically, did you find that you missed out on networking opportunities or had less time to engage with the MBA class because of your MS requirements?
Short answer is yes, you do have less time to do maybe some of the other MBA activities. Like I wasn't as involved as Katie or a lot of people were in Sloan clubs because of the engineering classes, but I chose to take more engineering classes, slightly more engineering classes than required. I think people can choose to tailor their experience to just the minimal requirements and take the rest of your classes all within Sloan, or do half and half, or somebody in my class did minimal Sloan requirements and all engineering otherwise. So short answer is yes, but I think you can tailor it to be more Sloan focused if you wanted to. And also just a caveat that my experience was during COVID. And so a lot of the large group activities that we normally would have gone to as a whole cohort wasn't available to us. So it was also more effort on the individual to schedule these smaller get-togethers to get to know groups. And instead of like 5 oceans normally, we had 8 my year. So they added some rivers and called them oceans anyway. So I was part of the Amazon River and they had other rivers as well. So each cohort was also smaller, which makes it easier to get to know your cohort, but also not that easy to get to know the whole class when you're not on campus at the same time. But going back to the normal experience, I definitely had classmates who were way more involved on the MBA side and wouldn't say that they missed out on too much because of their engineering requirements. Within the engineering courses, you can also choose to take easier classes or harder classes. So I think it's very, very much still, even though there are additional academic requirements, there are ways that you can tailor it to your need.
Thanks, Elizabeth. So now I'll allow you some time to think about your best memory, most rewarding experience. Manit, are you ready?
Yeah, I don't know if I will be ready, but I'm just like scrolling through my down the memory lane to pick one because it is so difficult. Um, I'm gonna go with like a celebrity shock type of experience. And this is again like there's so many experiences to pick from, but Indra Nui was a guest speaker on campus, and she was in the Sandberg conference room upstairs. And I remember, like, I mean, given her accomplishments and just how well celebrated of a CEO she has been and a board member, I was sitting in the first row and I remember like being that close. I am usually not a fan of people, but it was just like, wow, this is amazing that you get to be in presence of such a great personality and actually have the opportunity to ask questions, even after the talk, have one-on-one conversation. So I think just the school providing that opportunity and having these celebrity type people on campus is awesome.
Thanks, Manit. Katie, you're gonna go last. Well, actually, Elizabeth will go last. Greg, how about you?
For me, aside from the conference, I think it was the payoff of second year spring. This probably isn't the right topic for an admissions panel, but I think just like being able to spend time with all my friends, like going all over the place, essentially, once like, all the like most of the work was done and I had the job offer, like that was when I really got to, I think, enjoy my time at school and connect with my classmates the most. Like literally the week after the sports conference, I just like grabbed my 4 closest friends, like, you're coming with me to Disney World. And we just like skipped class and went to Disney World for like 4 days. But I think it was all those little moments. Like I think it was doing that. It was going on like a New Zealand study tour. It was like going on a trip with my friends to Europe for graduation. Like I think the classroom stuff was great. The network I built was great, but my favorite moments were all the ones with my classmates for sure.
Thanks, Greg. Katie?
Yeah, having just gone through second year spring, I can definitely agree with Greg. It's really chaotic, but really fun, and a lot of like really good bonding and memories with friends. But for me, I would say probably my like proudest memory from Sloan was doing a yarn, which is like kind of what I described earlier, of like getting up in front of 200 of my classmates and just talking about my life for 20 minutes. Which for me was like an extremely rewarding experience because like going into the MBA, if you had asked me if I would ever do one, I would have been like 1,000,000% no. Like you could not force me to. I would not want to go in front of that many people and just like be vulnerable. But like being Asian American and like there's, I obviously it's generalities and stereotypes, but I definitely struggled with like being quiet and not using my voice enough, and that was a lot of the feedback that I got coming into the MBA. And so it was definitely something that I really wanted to push on and work on and grow in. And so yeah, doing the yarn was kind of like a culmination of all of that and something that I am very proud of myself for doing.
Thanks, Katie. Elizabeth?
Maybe because I'm also further away from being in school, my first thought when you asked the question was also trip related with my classmates. It was also towards the end of our time there. It was a trip to Argentina where our first flight got canceled and we were running around the airport trying to rebook ourselves to go to Argentina, and it kind of just running through the airport with my classmates, and like it felt like an Amazing Race moment where everybody was like running from terminal to terminal trying to get a flight that would get us there as soon as possible. And then yeah, just small moments that make up the whole story that end up being bits and pieces of memory that you take with take with you forever, I think is like what stuck with me when you first asked the question. But of course, like the classroom was great, and but all of those things kind of build together to into the different relationships that you have, that you end up making memories with these different people that stick with you and take going forward.
Thanks, Elizabeth. All right, so we have a question from Manit focused on the SFMBA. So we're gonna do that next, but in the background as our last question, we'll close out with a question for everyone on how the Asian American community at Sloan has helped you with like your career progression or how it's helped you along the way. So Manit, for you with the SFMBA program, there's like kind of two questions. But so the SFMBA is known to leave no fellow behind. And they're asking specifically, how much support would you say you have received from your fellows in moving through a career switch post SFMBA, and what kind of support was that? They mentioned that they have a background in aerospace, so they're interested in also switching, I believe. And then also speaking to the fact of the 1 year program versus the 2 year program, if you're able to provide a succinct answer there.
I'll do my best. Yeah, so as far as support, I would say a lot of support. So as I was entering the program, I knew what I wanted to get out of and what my path was gonna be post MBA. But I was, you meet people from different walks of life and different experiences, industries, and it was really good to learn more about different industries, not just from the outside, but actually understand what a day in the life of a consultant or a day in a life of a PE analyst would be like. So I think it was very helpful to know the true picture. And even after the program, just connecting to the alumni as I was going through the recruitment process to like make the right connections was very helpful. So definitely like we live by no fellows left behind. As far as the second part was about, what was it? Other than the support?
The 1 to 2 years?
Okay, the 1 to 2 years. Yeah, so 1 year definitely feels very short, and at the end of 1 year, we were all like, "Oh, where did it was just blink of an eye, and here we are at graduation. So definitely 2 years would have felt a lot better, because you're doing your program, and then there's Sloan, but then there's MIT. So you want to experience all of it, and it's just juggling a lot of different priorities. It would have been nice to do the 2-year program, but then you just have to know what works best for you, because 1 year also allows you to go back into workforce. Like after 1 year, you're not away from your career for 2 years. It's a balance. If I could have made everything work with the 2 year, perhaps I would have chosen that, but it is what it is.
Hey, if it was gonna be 5 years for 2 years of tuition, I'd do it.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
All right, Greg, you spoke a little bit about how you are in WhatsApp groups with your fellow Asian American Sloanies. Can you speak a little bit to how that community at Sloan has helped you?
Yeah,
Uh,
I think that's
or
more
what?
like, yeah, I think that's more natural social evolution, not like Sloan helping me. But I would say like, I think in that regard, I think, you know, my career is a bit off the beaten path, right? Like I went into this video game thing for a couple of years. I came back to traditional sports, and there aren't exactly a lot of Sloan alumni in my space that are Asian American. So it for me, I think it hasn't been as helpful in that regard. But the way I think it has been helpful is kind of like I alluded to earlier, from like a peer-to-peer experience, right? Like I just like have the sounding board of my friends. You kind of have like all of your friends is like a barometer for you know how you're approaching your career. You're helping them solve their questions, which just like gives you more perspective on like the challenges that you face. I think in the same way, just as like with any strong educational institution, like most of your learning happens not in the classroom but from your peers. And I think in that way, just like the Asian Americans who happen to be my closest friends have been like, you know, immense in my like personal development and like in some of the ways I approach my career. So I think in that way, I think both Asian Americans at Sloan and the broader Sloan community are, have been a powerful thing.
Thanks, Greg. Katie?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm lucky that some of my close friends who are Asian American were also interested in sciences. So we were able to like take classes together and like work on project teams together. And then as we were going through like recruiting and like negotiating our offers and things like that, it was really great to be able to just like bounce ideas, bounce questions off each other, just like understand what they were going through. And actually some of those people like I got to know through the Asian American Alliance and through like the Asian American Alliance events and ski trip and things like that. So I probably would have known them through the classes we had taken, but I don't think I would have been as close to them. So I feel like I was very lucky in that sense.
Thanks, Katie. Elizabeth?
Sure. Similar to what Greg and Katie already shared, a lot of it are a lot of the how has being part of the community helped. While I was at Sloan, I think something that stood out to me is like having maybe similar cultural backgrounds and understanding our upbringing being, and like Katie shared before too, like coming into school knowing maybe we were known as more shy people or soft spoken, that it is something that we wanted to work on, or even as an Asian American woman, noticing that oftentimes we say sorry when it is not necessary. During school, I remember that was something that a lot of us wanted to work on. And so in just daily life and conversation, when somebody says it when it was not needed, that we would call each other out on it. And through time, you start noticing that you start doing it less. And so I think that is just, I think something interesting with the shared experiences, and through the friendship and openness and just people being very, very open and open to be vulnerable with each other was definitely something that I think was very refreshing and memorable, that still to this day we share similarly, even though we're in different industries with my friends, like what we're going through, our challenges, and how we might navigate through different situations. And it's always a learning experience, as well as just sometimes a nice set of ears to vent to.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Elizabeth. Manit, close us out.
Sure. So I'd say, I mean, Sloan and MIT in general is a very diverse place. So I think it provides us a platform or the ability to connect with a lot of our identities. So we're like Elizabeth mentioned, we're women, we have a certain way, and we're Asian American, and we're other things. We are technical background people. So it just you find because it's such a diverse community in all aspects, not just in our physical attributes or backgrounds, in many aspects, that it allows you to find others that are similar in that, and just be yourself, be your natural self while you're going through this transformational experience.